My name's Paul Schietroma, and I have a law firm that handles cases where people are hurt in accidents. The most common type of cases that I handle are individuals who are hurt in construction accidents or in buildings or car accidents. My experience is that young attorneys right out of law school usually spend their career in the type of law where they have their first job. So my first job out of law school was working for the city of New York, defending cases brought against the city for people who thought the city was negligent in its treatment of them. After it was time for me to leave the city, the only thing I knew how to do was personal injury work. So I started my own practice of representing people hurt in accidents. There are a lot of good personal injury attorneys in New York. I think the most important things when someone hires an attorney is, number one, of course, their knowledge, but number two, it's important that they hire someone who has a practice that is organized to give them the time that they need. I believe that one of the most common complaints of individuals are that they can never reach their lawyer. That is not how my firm is set up. My firm is set up that their case is assigned to a paralegal who's very experienced with over 10 years of knowledge. And if she can't answer their questions, then I get on the phone and I'll answer them. But communications really is critical. A lot of times people travel outside New York, and there was a young lady who was a passenger in a car on their way to Massachusetts with her son. And while in Connecticut, they were severely injured when another car failed to give them the right of way, which they had. And because it happened in Connecticut as opposed to New York, we had to be in federal court. And I think one of the most important things for clients to understand is that a lawsuit is not something that's going to be resolved quickly if it's a valuable case. And the reason why it's not resolved quickly is because the insurance companies like to hold on to their money as long as they can. They invest that money, they make money off of it. So if they have the choice of paying a client a year after the accident or 3 years after the accident, they prefer 3 years. And of course, my job is to try to put the pressure on the insurance company and get them to make a fair offer as close to 1 year as opposed to 3. But this takes the focus of the attorney, his staff, and the client. We're really all a team. And when almost 2.5 years of prosecuting that case, right before trial, we were able to settle it for just over $1 million. Okay, but they weren't going to offer that a year after the accident. I think the biggest challenge in a personal injury case is communicating with the client to understand that they and me are a team that have to work together to bring their case to a successful end. Insurance companies don't settle cases because they want to close files. They're happy to have 1 million open files if that means they don't pay any money on them. So the client has to be patient, has to be understanding, has to follow what his or her doctor tells them. And then we'll be able to work together and we have the time to prosecute the case correctly. Their biggest tactic in reducing compensation is just to hold out as long as they can And usually, not all the time, but usually they don't like to hold out once a trial date is given. So we're talking about prosecuting the case, client going to depositions, be examined by the insurance company's doctor, and then waiting for a trial. But once we get a trial date, and insurance companies know what lawyers will take a case up to the point of trial, and then before jury selection settle for the best offer they could get, and those attorneys who will go to trial. And that's really what the main difference is. They'll try and hold off paying as long as they can, and once a trial date is given, if they know the attorney is one that just takes the best offer they give before jury selection, and that's going to be what they're going to offer. If they know you're willing to go to trial, including verdict, then they'll offer you something a lot more fair. Well, this is very hard because most of the time they're hurting, but I wish if they were able to, they've got to take as many pictures as they can with their cell phone. If it's an automobile accident, they've got to take pictures of where the cars came to a stop or rest. They've got to take pictures showing the damage to the cars, right? And there's just so much that could be helpful from pictures taken at the scene. Another thing that's very difficult for someone who's hurt, right, and in pain, is if someone stops by to help them and was a witness to the accident, if they could just ask the person to please give them their cell phone number, that would be very helpful as the case starts maturing. Because as you could imagine, insurance companies and jurors realize that someone who's injured has a lot of money that they could possibly win. And the defendant who's being sued possibly has a lot of money they could lose. So if they have someone who doesn't have any interest in the outcome and says what they saw, that's probably going to carry. So getting a person's name and phone number and taking pictures are probably the two most important things they could do.